The men's basketball team continues to struggle, but we have some exciting news about former standout B.J. Johnson. Hello, I'm Tegan Lamont.
And I'm Dana Pecora. The women's basketball team pulled off an exciting win this weekend. We've got the details. You're watching LaSalle TV's home for Explore Athletics, SportsLine.
Welcome to SportsLine. We've got a ton of LaSalle sports to cover this week, and Steve Silvestro will give a deep dive into men's basketball with a new segment of Sports Chat.
And later, Josh Abrams hits the desk after a long time away to discuss basketball in this week's Explorer Report.
But first, let's take a look at our SportsLine top 3.
Number 1, we've got a trio of awards for this week's top 3, starting with women's basketball senior Jaren Reese, who earned the honor of Big 5 Player of the Week for her performance against St. Bonaventure, and George Mason. Between the two games, she averaged 16 points and 12.5 rebounds. Reese also recorded a double-double against the Bonnies and had a career high of 16 rebounds. Against George Mason, she recorded a career high in points with 22. Miles Williams will have more about the George Mason game later in the show.
Number 2 comes from our track team after the Atlantic 10 Indoor Championship. Chris Lewis and Ryan James were both announced to the A10 Conference Men's Indoor Track and Field All-Rookie Team. Lewis placed top 5 in 2 events at the championship, earning bronze in the 200-meter, then 4th in the 60-meter dash. James was a long-distance runner who came in 4th in the 3,000-meter, followed up by a 12th place finish in the 5,000-meter.
Number 3, the baseball team continues to rack up the A10 honors as freshman right-handed pitcher Aiden Fry earns Atlantic 10 Co-Rookie of the Week for his shutout performance in the Explorers' win over Albany. The season-high 8 strikeout performance also earned Fry Big 5 Pitcher of the Week and gave him his first career win. The freshman only allowed 3 hits and 1 walk over his 7-inning complete game.
We have an extra special headline at number 4. On March 2nd, the Atlanta Hawks signed 2018 LaSalle graduate B.J. Johnson to a 10-day contract. Johnson made his NBA debut against the Chicago Bulls 2 days later. He was perfect from the field, going 4 for 4, including three three-pointers for 11 points, along with 2 rebounds and 1 steal. The next day, in a game against the Miami Heat, Johnson settled down, shooting just 3 of 7 from the floor with 6 points, 5 rebounds, and a steal. However, Johnson made it into the history books and in the game when Dwayne Wade blocked his shot to set the record for most blocks by a guard in NBA history. In their most recent game, Johnson only saw 1 minute of action. We will keep you up to date as Johnson Watch continues.
So this is super exciting about B.J. Johnson, and it's great because it's coming at a time where that LaSalle Explorers basketball doesn't have a lot of very exciting things coming out of it.
Right, yeah, men's basketball is super cold right now, but it is nice to see BJ getting out there, and he played super well his first game. And then his second game, he played like an average backup player, an average bench player, which is good enough that he should stay in the NBA, honestly. Yeah. His third game, he didn't get any playing time, which stinks. But, yeah, I think he's shown something all year in the G League, and then in his 2 games, really, in the NBA this year, that shows that, yeah, he probably does deserve to be at least on a bench in the NBA somewhere.
Yeah, that's super exciting, and we're super happy for B.J. Johnson, and we'll continue to update you with his progress, throughout the year.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy and an awesome player, so
wish him the best of luck.
Well, that's all we've got for this week's headlines. Let's see how our teams fared this week. Men's basketball had a rough week, dropping 2 key games on the road. First up, the Explorers traveled down City Ave to take on the St. Joe's Hawks. The Explorers shot a dismal 33% from the field in the contest and allowed Chris Clover and Lamar Kimball to dominate them, combining for 37 points. Saul Peary led the way for LaSalle with 17 points on the night. Isaiah Dees, who has been hot lately, was terrible in this game, shooting just 1 of 11 from the floor and turning the ball over 7 times. He ended up with 13 points on the night, but 10 of those 13 came from the foul line. The poor offensive performance led to a 72-62 loss for the Explorers. There's not much to be said about the second loss of the week. The Explorers lost by a mind-boggling 31 points in Dayton with a final score of 70-39. Jared Kimbrough may have been the lone bright spot for the Explorers as he posted 8 points on 3 of 4 shooting on the night. Put simply, the Explorers were outclassed by the Flyers in this tough contest. Pookie Powell's return to the floor did not go as he would have hoped, as he failed to make any of his 9 shots in his 22 minutes of play and only picked up 2 assists. The Explorers will have to bounce back and get on a roll as the regular season is coming to an end.
Women's basketball won an overtime thriller in their last home game of the season. Miles Williams has the coverage.
On senior day, the Explorers took on George Mason in an overtime thriller. LaSalle caught fire from beyond the arc in the first half, hitting 8 of 11 threes, while senior guard Jaren Reese hit 3 of her 4 attempts and had 17 points. Kayla Sproul and Erin Morgan each hit 2 threes, and the Explorers led by 9 at the end of the half. In the second half, forward Shalina Miller was the leading force, having 10 points, 8 boards, and breaking the record for single-season blocks at LaSalle. Miller also hit the game-tying 3 that forced the game into overtime, where Miller continued her big night with leading the team in scoring, rebounding, and icing the game with 2 key free throws. That put the Explorers up by 6. LaSalle won the OT period by a score of 11-5 and won the game by a score of 77-71. For SportsLine, I'm Miles Williams.
The women's basketball team traveled to Dayton to compete in the first round of the A-10. In her final game wearing a blue and gold jersey, senior Jaren Reese recorded a double-double against the Flyers. Reese scored 11 of the Explorer points and snagged 10 rebounds. Dayton opened the game with 8 points while only allowing LaSalle to score 2. The blue and gold started to pick up the pace and trailed by 5 leading into the second quarter. However, Dayton went on a 13-2 run to open the second. LaSalle ultimately trailed by 14 after the first half of play. The third quarter was evenly matched, with Dayton scoring 16 while LaSalle scored 15. However, Dayton ended the game on an 18-3 run to take the win by a final score of 65-38.
The men's and women's track and field teams were back in action this weekend as they competed in the ECAC Indoor Championship. The headline of the event came from Jessica Bryant, breaking the school record for long jump with a distance of 5.86 meters to earn second place in the event. Grace Mancini recorded a personal best in the 3,000 meter with a time of 9 minutes and 24.2 seconds to take the bronze medal in the event. On the men's side, Anthony Hawthorne defended his title in the 800 meters by winning the event for the second year in a row. Freshman Chris Lewis set the school record in the 200 meter with a time of 21.5 seconds to take 7th in the event.
The baseball team picked up their third series win against Albany. It was a team effort in Game 1 as the Explorers had scored 13 runs on 18 hits to pick up a 13-6 win. An RBI single by Tommy Toll started the rally for LaSalle in the 6th inning. In that inning alone, the Explorers scored 6 runs on 7 hits. In Game 2, LaSalle fell behind early on, but fought back and put 5 runs on the board. However, it was not enough and they fell 6-5. Luckily, the Explorers bounced back in Game 3 and won 9-0. LaSalle's offense and defense were top-notch throughout the game. Freshman Aiden Fry struck out 8 batters and pitched a 3-hit shutout, while senior Peyton Sorrells was 4 for 4 at the plate. He scored 2 runs and came through with 2 RBIs.
Softball traveled to North Carolina to compete in the Elon Invitational Tournament. The Explorers faced host school Elon, where they were shut out 9-0 in 5 innings. In Game 2, the Explorers were defeated by Lafayette, this time falling 7-3. The Blue and Gold finally turned it around in Game 3, where they earned their first win against Oakland University. LaSalle started off the game with a huge lead of 5-0 over the Grizzlies. Junior Emily Conaway scored on an error. Sophomore Ashley Mendenhall drove in 2 on an RBI double to center field and later made it to home plate herself. Senior Emma Schweigert scored a 6th run for LaSalle on an RBI single from sophomore Deanna Pinero. Oakland made an attempt to come back from the large deficit and almost succeeded, but ultimately came up a run short, with the game ending in a final score of 6-5.
The lacrosse team has hit quite a rough patch lately. The Explorers contributed 2 more defeats to their current 4-game losing streak in the past week, dropping to Mount St. Mary's and Temple. Against the Mount, an early goal by sophomore Hope Smith did not provide enough momentum for the Explorers as the Mount scored 5 unanswered goals and would go up 7-2 by the end of the first half. Sophomore Emily Johnston contributed 1 goal in the first half and 2 goals in the second as the Explorers experienced their first road defeat of the season by a final score of 16-5. The Blue end goal demonstrated some offensive improvements against Big Five rival Temple, finishing in double digits for the second time this season. Sophomore Anina Akabuchi led the Explorers' efforts with 3 goals. Classmates Johnston and Bridget Rusky provided offensive support with 2 goals each. However, the Explorers ultimately fell to the Owls with a final score of 13-10.
The women's water polo team traveled across the country to compete in the Convergence tournament, where they picked up another win. In Game 1, the Explorers matched up against Fresno Pacific in what would be a tight game throughout. LaSalle went ahead with just under 7 minutes left after scoring 3 straight goals. After Fresno Pacific tied it up again, junior Caitlin Kubo came in clutch with the game winner with 30 seconds left to ice the game 14-13. The second game of the day didn't go as well for the Explorers. After giving up 11 unanswered goals to Concordia, LaSalle fell 15-3. In their third game of the weekend, the Blue and Gold suffered a close loss to Sonoma State by a score of 10-9. Finally, Chapman topped the Explorers 15-11, despite a strong outing from sophomore Sarah DeFusco, who scored 3 goals.
Men's and women's tennis traveled to Lehigh this week, and both teams came back with losses. First, men's tennis was edged out 4-3. It began with a doubles win from senior Francesco Mauri and freshman Nassim Fingiro. Another doubles win came from sophomores Connor Merrill and Rogelio Gonzalez, before LaSalle dropped the third doubles game, giving them a 1-point advantage. Sophomore Colin Lucius earned a singles win with a 6-2, 6-2 victory, followed by Rogelio Gonzalez getting what would be the Explorers' last win with a 7-6, 6-2 victory at third singles. In first singles, Francesco Mauri won the first set before dropping the last 2. Losses at second, fourth, and fifth singles completed Lehigh's come-from-behind victory. Next up, the women had a quick match as they were swept 4-0. The Explorers lost all 3 doubles matches before only playing 3 singles matches, which were all dropped by LaSalle. Well, that's all we've got for recaps, but when we come back, we will have some familiar faces on the show to talk about basketball. Stay tuned.
Yo, bro, what's good?
What's going on?
How you feeling, man?
Doing good. How you doing?
When'd you start smoking?
Smoking? It's a jewel, bro.
It's a jewel?
Yeah.
Listen, you might as well be smoking cigarettes. When you start juuling or vaping, you're 4 times more likely to start smoking cigarettes.
Is that true?
That's very true. Give me the jewel. You don't need it.
To learn more about e-cigarettes, go to thetruth.com.
Welcome back. With the men's basketball team nearing the A10 tournament, Steven Silvestro gathered the basketball geniuses to go more in depth on the team's recent play. Check it out.
Chat. Looks like we're on a new set, but we got the same panel. We got Dave and Amadou, always back to talk more men's basketball. But one big change is we went back to how we started. We kind of look like a terrible team again. Yesterday, we lost to Dayton 70-39. Let me repeat that.
How we get blown out by 30 plus
70-39.
points?
All right, and like we had Pookie back for this game, 0 for 9. We had Shaggy was second leading scorer at 4 for 14. The Dayton starting 5 had 39 points in the second half alone. That's the same number of points as our entire team through the entire game. What's going on?
You don't have to
open the wound more. Like I was healing, then I come here and now I gotta deal with this. What's going on? It's just not. We're just not focused. It's end of the season. They're playing like who cares. At this point, I'm like, who cares?
Nobody really cares. I mean, if you look at it, Pookie had 0 points. I mean, if you're talking about a leader on the team who's always put up the most points on the floor and he puts up 0 points, you can really see that there really is zero focus at all. I mean, it's embarrassing, but at the same time, this looks like the last blow until we can actually do something great. Like, we all have to fall down to get back up, you know what I mean? So I feel like this has to be the one last big hit before we do something special at some point.
I agree. We can't stay down for too long. I'm sure something will come our way and we'll rise again. Whether it's with the current team we have now or maybe someone new, I don't know. Hopefully next year will be better.
This all comes interesting off of a game last week where they played the number 2 team in the A10, Davidson, and they pulled the upset. They beat Davidson 79-69. That was without Pookie, and you had the 3 juniors all step up. Shaggy, Isaiah Diaz with 25. You had Tracy Carter with 24 and Saul Fury with 14, all 3 of which had 4 3-pointers each. How does a team go from beating the second team in the A10 to, granted, Dayton is the 3rd team in the A10, but losing by 31?
I mean, honestly, that was a home game, and you know that home atmosphere is something different. And I think they were just hitting all their shots. I mean, usually they put up this amount of shots and don't really hit all that. And I think they were all just like firing off, and I think they just had that energy in them. And we really gave them that energy too of just just being there. So I feel like just being at home and them actually just clicking all the right way really just pushed us past Davidson, and we just came out of it.
Did we get an interview with Shag for the Dayton game? Because I really wonder if he had some Chinese food in his system. I'm sticking to that point. I guarantee you he ate well.
All right, but let's go back to it. This season, we're sitting at 9th in the A10 right now. All right.
We made it to A10.
As long we're going to make the A10 tournament because everybody makes it.
Everybody makes it.
The bottom 4 teams have to play in the first round. The top 10 all advance already past the first round. We are that 6th team, but we are only 1 game above St. Joe and Richmond. It's Fordham on Saturday. We should beat Fordham, but after losing a game 70-39, I don't know. Fordham game, does it look like we're going to get that first round? Because we lost in that first round last year.
Yes, we did. I think it's just up. I mean, obviously it's up to us, but it really is just up to us. Like, we have to play our game that we know. We have to play the game that we played against Davidson to really come in there and just dominate, show everyone in the A10 that we're just not a pushover team. We can actually compete. Even if we make it past the first round, we lose by 5-10 points. We just need to show that we're the type of team that can come in there and just get stuff done.
I agree. We definitely need to set the tone and come out strong, especially in that first round. If we don't make it past the first round, that's fine. But I think that first round game, that's a must-win for LaSalle, because right there, you're setting the mentality of the team. Like, maybe you don't go all the way, maybe you're not the best team, but you're going down swinging. And we don't want a repeat of what happened with the game yesterday, where it felt like they weren't even trying at one point. So we just want them to come out strong and be better.
All right, go back to you just said didn't look like they were trying. In the second half of that Dayton game, Dayton out-rebounded LaSalle 20-9.
Yeah, see, that's a strength issue. Like, if I have a big man in the paint, I shouldn't be getting out-rebounded by such a large margin. It should be relatively close. Like, what was the actual stats of, like, how much did we get out-rebounded by? 4 or 5, right?
Yeah, we won the rebounding battle in the first half.
In the first half, but the second half?
The second half, we got out-rebounded 20-9.
Exactly. It's 20-9. That's unacceptable. And we need a presence, like an enforcer in the paint. And that's just fundamental basketball, in my opinion.
Well, in the last few games so far this year, Ed Croswell has stepped up. We've been saying that, the freshman really stepping up. He had 16 rebounds in 2 separate games. What other players do you think need to step up on this team?
Well, we talk about big man. I think, the other freshman, Jared Kimbrough, I think he also should just, I don't know, taking notes from another teammate is, something that a lot of people don't want to do because of pride issues. But I mean, he should just look at Ed and just see how much he's working out there. You can see from the stands that Ed is really putting forth the efforts, really just grab the boards and, at least put him back up too. So I feel like Jared really should focus more on just, not getting out rebounded, actually working for those rebounds. Even if he does get fouled, or even if he falls over, or he has those loose ball fouls, he should really just go out there and work 100% on trying to get those rebounds from the other big guys on the team.
Who are you looking for, Amadou?
I'm always gonna go with my man's Miles. I just want him to be great. I see it in him. I'm just not sure what's going on. I really do think it's a strength and mentality issue. I don't know if he needs to bulk up a little bit more because he has the speed. I've seen him at times show glimpses of strength that he has. I'm just not sure why it's not coming together. Maybe it's a time issue. I really couldn't tell you.
All right, I want to thank Dave and Amadou for coming down. There's a fly on my head, but we're going to send it back to Dana and Tegan.
Bow!
Thanks, guys of Sports Chat. But don't close this YouTube video, because when we come back, we will have Josh Abrams to look at this week's Explorer Report.
According to the Mayo Clinic, exercising has stress-busting benefits by bumping up your endorphins and improving your mood.
There's plenty of LaSalle sports action this upcoming week, so let us welcome Josh Abrams for this week's Explorer Report.
Thanks, Dana. For this week's Explorer Report, our LaSalle men's basketball team hosts Fordham in the season finale this Saturday, March 9th at 4 p.m. LaSalle enters this game with a record of 10-20 after most recently dropping their last contest by a score of 70-39 on the road at Dayton. Meanwhile, the visiting Rams own a 12-18 overall record, but rank last in the A-10 at 3-14, despite winning their last contest at home versus George Washington. In the first matchup between these two teams, the visiting Explorers came out on top, 73-71, thanks to a then season-high 14 made three-pointers as a team. Isaiah Dees led the Explorers in scoring in that game with 20, while Pookie Powell and Saul Peary scored 16 and 14 points, respectively. Shooting 14 of 26 from beyond the arc is always a recipe for success. However, that is much easier said than done. So if the Explorers' shooting is not as hot as the first matchup, they are going to need contributions on all ends of the floor from their guards, Dees, Peary, as well as David Beatty and Tracy Carter. It will also be important for one of these guards to keep Fordham's Antoine Portley in check, who scored 22 points in the team's first meeting.
Thank you, Josh.
Yep.
Okay,
Thanks, Josh.
so I know this Explorer Report is obviously talking about the future, but can we please just talk about how much of an emotional roller coaster this season has been? I mean, we went through a stretch of time where we were winning the big games, George Washington, Davidson, we were
We started 0-10 though,
yeah,
before we got conference.
there, 0-10, and then we started winning in the
Played
conference.
well.
And then all of a sudden, we do two horrific games against St. Joe's and against Dayton. Yeah. And St. Joe's was a lot more painful to watch than what the scoreboard showed. I mean, Dayton, obviously, the scoreboard showed just how bad it was. But anyway, I just had to get it off my chest. I'm really upset.
I think the last time I was on for Explorer Report, we were either in the midst of that 0-10 stretch, or we were just starting to start conference play, and that's when we actually started to pick it up was when we started to begin conference play. And as I said, that first game against Fordham, I don't remember how exactly close to the beginning of conference play that was, but
It was pretty close at the beginning.
yeah, and you saw, and as I said, they made 14 3-pointers and they shot over 50% from beyond the arc. It was just, it must have been just a hot shooting night. I know Pookie Powell hit that dagger with less than a minute left. I know he just came back, so it's really it's really taken him a little while to get back into form. But it also doesn't help that we're coming up on the last game of the regular season. We're going to hope that Pookie's going to be ready to go.
Right. I mean, this is the part of the season where you want to be as hot as you can be. There's a lot of teams right now that haven't had the greatest year, like Rhode Island, who are now getting much better than they were for the whole stretch of the year. They're playing their best basketball now going into conference tournament. I mean, like
We're kind of going backwards.
2
in
or
that
3 weeks
respect.
ago, I thought maybe we're not going to win the conference tournament, but maybe we can cause a little havoc. Maybe we can. I mean, there was a point where I was even talking about maybe we can get in the top 4 and have a double bye. There was.
I mean, we had Shag, we had TC, we had like everyone playing hot, and then it's like they all just collapse at once.
It's not a one guy got cold, so we turn to the rest of the guys.
It was like
it's an
everyone.
everybody
It's
is
just-
not playing good basketball.
It's weird how sports work, because one week, when we beat Davidson, we didn't have Pookie Powell.
No.
And so, it's like you got to wonder, how does this team function? And we know Pookie's not going to be here next year.
Right.
And as sad as it is, it's going to be sad to see him go. But this team, everyone else on this team is coming back for the most part, as far as we know.
And the offense might operate a little bit better without Pookie in there. Maybe Pookie doesn't distribute as well as other guys do, or something like that. Maybe there is an effect there.
That's the argument. Pookie or not Pookie. That's the argument we tend to have. All right, we could go on about this forever and ever, especially with us three. But we have picks, so we need to get to it. Tegan, take it away.
All right. I actually have confidence in the Explorers at home against the Fordham team. That's not the greatest. I've got LaSalle winning 70-64.
And I have Fordham actually winning 70-65. Well, I thought I had Fordham winning, but apparently the basketball gods want me to have LaSalle winning. So you know what? LaSalle's winning 70-65.
Well, I mean, this Fordham team's 3-14 in conference play. The Explorers have to win this game.
Yeah, it's not a game that they can afford to lose. It's not a game that they should lose, especially at Tom Gola Arena.
For the last of the season, get out and watch and support.
That just about wraps it up for us this week. If you can't make it out to see the Explorer Report, be sure to tune in next week for our coverage. Keep up with this weekend's other sporting events by visiting goexplorers.com or check out this week's edition of the Collegian.
Also, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/LaSalleTV and on Twitter at SportsLineLTV. We welcome you to send us your thoughts and suggestions there.
For Stephen, Miles, and our SportsLine team, I'm Tegan Lamont.
And I'm Dana Bacora. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you at the game.
Ciao.